What if I told you that the only reason we exist today is because of the most terrifying day in Earth's history? 66 million years ago, an asteroid the size of Mount Everest slammed into our planet with the power of billions of nuclear bombs. In just hours, the dinosaurs, rulers of the Earth for 150 million years, were gone. But from their ashes rose small, fragile creatures that would one day become us. The story begins on that fateful day, 66 million years ago, at the end of the Cretaceous period. For over 150 million years, dinosaurs had been the undisputed kings of the Earth. They were enormous, powerful, and diverse. Predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, long-necked giants like Brachiosaurus, and armored beasts like Ankylosaurus. They lived in forests, swamps, deserts, and even coastal seas. And then, in one blinding moment, everything changed. A massive asteroid, nearly 10 kilometers wide, larger than Mount Everest, crashed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact unleashed energy equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. Shockwaves circled the globe. Forests ignited into raging wildfires. Tsunamis taller than skyscrapers swept across oceans. Within days, the sky darkened as debris and dust blocked out sunlight. For months, the Earth was plunged into a cold, dark, impact winter. Plants withered without sunlight. Herbivores starved. Carnivores soon followed. And so, the mighty dinosaurs, after 150 million years of dominance, were wiped away almost overnight. At first glance, this story is tragic. But hidden inside the tragedy was opportunity. By removing the dinosaurs, the asteroid cleared the stage for something new. And so began the Cenozoic era, the age of mammals. From the ashes of destruction rose small, fragile creatures. Mammals that had once lived in fear of dinosaurs, who now had the freedom to evolve, diversify, and eventually give rise to us. The first chapter of the Cenozoic era is known as the Paleogene period, stretching from 66 million to about 23 million years ago. If you could travel back in time to witness this world, you would not find dinosaurs. Instead, you would see a planet in recovery, forests regrowing, oceans repopulating, and skies filled with new kinds of birds that were the surviving cousins of dinosaurs. The mammals, once tiny creatures scurrying in the shadows, now began to grow larger. Freed from the threat of predators like Tyrannosaurus rex, they adapted to fill nearly every ecological role left vacant. Some became grazers, feeding on the lush plants of the rebounding forests. Others turned into fearsome hunters. And in the oceans, mammals also began their conquest, evolving into entirely new forms. One of the most extraordinary predators of the Paleogene was Androsarchus. Picture a creature the size of a horse, but far more terrifying. Its skull alone was nearly a meter long, equipped with powerful jaws filled with teeth capable of cracking bones like twigs. Scientists believe Androsarchus may have hunted smaller mammals and even scavenged, using its sheer size and strength to dominate its environment. Standing nearly 2 meters tall at the shoulder, it was among the largest land-dwelling carnivorous mammals to ever exist. On the other end of the spectrum were herbivorous giants like Indricotherium, also known as Paraceratherium. Imagine a creature taller than a giraffe, but heavier than a dozen elephants combined. Indricotherium stood nearly 7 meters tall and weighed up to 20 tons. Unlike Androsarchus, it was peaceful, using its long neck to strip leaves from treetops. Its sheer size kept it safe from most predators, for few dared to challenge a walking mountain. These giants tell us something profound. Life does not simply replace what was lost, it reinvents itself. Dinosaurs had once produced enormous plant eaters and powerful predators. Now, mammals were doing the same, showing that the blueprint of evolution often repeats when given the right conditions. While land was being reshaped by these new giants, the oceans were no less dramatic. Enter Megalodon, the largest shark to ever exist. Growing to lengths of 15 to 18 meters, 3 times the size of today's great white sharks, Megalodon was a true apex predator of the seas. Its bite force was estimated to be 10 times greater than that of a modern great white, strong enough to crush the skull of a whale. Imagine swimming in the ocean during the Paleogene. Suddenly, the water darkens as a shadow passes beneath you. Then, in a burst of speed, jaws wider than your outstretched arms close around their prey. For whales and other marine mammals that were beginning to evolve at this time, Megalodon was a nightmare that patrolled every corner of the ocean. The seas also saw the ancestors of modern whales beginning to appear. Unlike the fully aquatic whales we know today, early species such as Pakicetus still had legs and could walk on land. Over millions of years, these semi-aquatic creatures evolved into the sleek, intelligent whales and dolphins we recognize now. It was as if evolution was experimenting, trying to find the best design for survival in a changing world. The Paleogene was not just about giant creatures. It was also a time of dramatic environmental change. Early in this period, the Earth experienced a warm climate, almost tropical, allowing forests to stretch even into polar regions. Crocodiles and palm trees lived in places like Greenland. But as millions of years passed, the climate began to cool, slowly setting the stage for the ice ages to come. During this time, continents were also shifting. The Atlantic Ocean widened as South America drifted away from Africa. India continued its northward journey, eventually colliding with Asia to create the Himalayas. These colossal movements shaped weather patterns, habitats, and migration routes, further influencing the course of evolution. Though the Paleogene may seem like a distant and alien world, it laid the foundation for what would eventually become us. Mammals diversified into every imaginable form. Small insect eaters, burrowing rodents, gliding creatures that would one day give rise to bats, and primates, the group to which we belong. The first true primates appeared during this time. Tiny tree-dwelling creatures with forward-facing eyes and grasping hands. They may not have looked like much, but those adaptations, depth perception for leaping between branches and the ability to grip with precision, were crucial. Without them, the story of humanity could never have unfolded. Looking back at the Paleogene, one can see a simple truth. Life is resilient. Even after the greatest mass extinctions, the planet does not remain empty for long. Ecosystems rebuild, new creatures evolve, and niches are filled once more. What was lost gives way to something new. Dinosaurs may have been erased, but their absence allowed mammals to rise. Without that asteroid, Androcarchus would never have hunted the plains, Indricotherium would never have towered over forests, and whales would never have sung in the oceans. Most importantly, without that catastrophe, primates, and eventually humans, would never have had their chance. So the next time you hear about that asteroid strike, don't think of it only as an ending. Think of it as a beginning. The start of the chain of events that led to you, sitting here today, learning about the story of life. If the Paleogene was the beginning of Earth's recovery after that fateful asteroid strike, then the Neogene period was the great turning point that brought the planet much closer to the world we recognize today. The Neogene began about 23 million years ago and ended roughly 2.6 million years ago. For nearly 20 million years, Earth's climate, landscapes, and living creatures transformed in ways that laid the foundation for our own existence. Throughout the Neogene, Earth's climate began to cool. The vast rainforests that had once dominated large regions gradually shrank, giving way to endless grasslands stretching across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. This was nothing less than an ecological revolution, the rise of the savannas and steppes. Grasslands didn't just change the scenery, they transformed the rules of survival. With fewer trees, animals had less cover. Herbivores could no longer rely on dense forests to hide from predators, and predators themselves had to become faster and more strategic to chase prey across open plains. The Neogene climate also experienced strong fluctuations. Polar ice began to form, signaling the beginning of the great ice ages to come in the Quaternary period. Life now faced harsher challenges, demanding greater adaptability than ever before. With grasslands expanding, grazing animals flourished and diversified. Among the most remarkable examples were the horses. Early ancestors of horses were no larger than a fox, living in forests and walking on multiple toes, which made sense on soft, leafy ground. But as the grasslands spread, evolution reshaped them. Their bodies grew larger for speed and endurance. Their teeth became stronger to grind tough grasses, and their toes fused into a single hoof for sprinting across the plains. Eventually, the horse became the very symbol of speed and power on the savanna. Alongside horses, antelopes, deer, and primitive bison appeared, forming great herds that migrated endlessly in search of fresh grass. The grassland ecosystem became a relentless engine of evolution, forcing animals to adapt or perish. But grasslands were not just havens for herbivores. They also gave rise to predators of extraordinary speed and strength. The early big cats, ancestors of lions and leopards, honed their bodies for stalking and chasing in the open. One of the most fearsome hunters of this time was Megalodon, a saber-toothed cat with fangs nearly 20 centimeters long. These elongated canines turned them into lethal assassins, capable of delivering fatal bites to the throats of their prey. They were the precursors of the famous Smilodon, the saber-toothed tiger of the Ice Age. The grasslands triggered a biological arms race. Prey animals evolved to run faster and farther, while predators evolved sharper senses, stronger muscles, and deadlier tactics. And amidst this evolutionary battlefield, a small group of primates in Africa was quietly setting out on a path that would change the fate of the world. While the grasslands dominated much of the planet, forests still sheltered incredible creatures, including the largest primate ever known, Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus lived in Asia and stood more than 3 meters tall, weighing close to half a ton. Imagine a giant ape, towering over humans, striding through bamboo forests. Despite its intimidating size, Gigantopithecus was mostly peaceful, feeding on bamboo, leaves, and fruit, much like today's giant pandas. But size alone could not save it from climate change. As forests receded and bamboo supplies dwindled, Gigantopithecus could not adapt quickly enough and eventually vanished. All that remains today are massive jaws and teeth, fueling myths and legends of the Yeti or Bigfoot that still capture human imagination. Yet the most significant creature of the Neogene was not Gigantopithecus, nor the herds of antelope, nor the saber-toothed cats. It was a small, relatively unremarkable primate that carried within it the seeds of our story, Australopithecus. Australopithecus lived in Africa, standing just 1.2 to 1.5 meters tall and weighing around 30 to 40 kilograms. At first glance, they might have seemed like little more than apes. But they did something revolutionary. They walked on 2 legs. Why was walking upright so important? First, it freed the hands. No longer needed for locomotion, their arms could now carry food, wield sticks for defense, and eventually manipulate tools. Second, it provided a higher vantage point. On open plains, standing tall made it easier to spot predators lurking in the distance. Third, it conserved energy. Walking on 2 legs was more efficient for long-distance travel across the wide, grassy landscapes. Those first uncertain steps of Australopithecus were nothing less than destiny. They set in motion the evolutionary path that would eventually lead to the genus Homo, and, ultimately, to Homo sapiens. The Neogene was also significant because Earth itself began to resemble the planet we know today. Continents drifted toward their present positions. South America connected with North America via the Isthmus of Panama, altering ocean currents and reshaping global climates. India pressed more forcefully into Asia, lifting the Himalayas higher than ever. Africa edged closer to Europe, tightening the Mediterranean. These tectonic shifts didn't just redraw coastlines. They altered weather patterns, sea levels, and ecosystems, forcing life everywhere to adapt. The very landscapes that exist today, our mountains, plains, and seas, were carved during this restless age. The Neogene teaches us a vital truth. Evolution is adaptation to change. When forests disappeared and grasslands expanded, animals either adapted or went extinct. Gigantopithecus, for all its might, could not keep pace with the changing climate. But Australopithecus, with its humble step onto 2 legs, adapted brilliantly and changed the course of history. It was in the Neogene that the conditions necessary for humanity's rise took shape. Without vast savannas, our ancestors might have stayed in the trees forever. Without climate shifts, they might never have learned to travel long distances in search of food. And without those first upright steps of Australopithecus, the genus Homo, and Homo sapiens today, would never have existed. The Neogene ended 2.6 million years ago, giving way to the Quaternary period, the age of ice and the age of humans. But never forget, without the Neogene, there would be no us. The Neogene was like nature's grand rehearsal, experimenting with grasslands, with swift grazers and powerful predators, with giant apes and upright walkers. Every experiment, every adaptation, every extinction was part of the preparation for the greatest story of all, the rise of humankind. The Neogene had reshaped Earth into a planet that looked familiar, with continents close to their modern positions, grasslands dominating vast regions, and primates like Australopithecus beginning to walk upright. But the world was not done changing. At around 2.6 million years ago, Earth entered the Quaternary period, a time that continues to this very day. This period was unlike anything before it. It was marked by violent swings in climate, long, freezing ice ages where glaciers advanced and blanketed much of the northern hemisphere, followed by shorter, warmer interglacial periods when ice retreated. The Quaternary became a stage of extremes, shaping not only the landscapes but also the animals, and most importantly, shaping the destiny of humankind. Imagine standing in Europe or North America during one of the great ice ages. Instead of forests or rolling hills, you would see vast sheets of ice, hundreds of meters thick, grinding mountains into valleys and carving new lakes into the land. Temperatures dropped dramatically. Winters were brutal and unending. For animals, survival meant adaptation. Some evolved thick coats of fur, others grew larger to conserve heat, while many simply could not cope and vanished forever. But those who endured became some of the most iconic creatures of prehistory. During the Quaternary, Earth was home to extraordinary megafauna, giant mammals that captured the imagination of later humans. The woolly mammoth was perhaps the most famous. Standing up to 4 meters tall and covered in shaggy fur, with long curved tusks stretching over 4 meters in length, mammoths roamed the icy steppes in great herds. They grazed on grasses and mosses, using their tusks to sweep snow aside to reach food buried beneath. Alongside them were the woolly rhinoceroses, equally adapted to the cold, armored in thick hides and with massive horns for defense. There were also giant ground sloths in the Americas, weighing several tons and towering over humans when standing upright. Predators matched this scale. The Smilodon, or saber-toothed tiger, ruled the Americas with its iconic 20-centimeter-long fangs, designed for delivering deadly strikes. The cave lion, larger than any lion alive today, stalked the plains of Europe. Packs of dire wolves worked together to bring down prey many times their size. It was a world of giants. Yet even they could not predict the rise of a new kind of creature, smaller, weaker in body, but armed with something none of them possessed: intelligence. Around 2.4 million years ago, the first species of the genus Homo appeared, Homo habilis, often called the handy man. They were not giants. Standing only about 1.3 meters tall, with small brains compared to us, Homo habilis would not have seemed impressive among the massive beasts of the Ice Age. But they had something revolutionary: the ability to make and use tools. With simple stone flakes and choppers, they cut meat from carcasses, broke bones for marrow, and even used tools to shape other tools. This was a turning point. Technology had entered the story of life. No other animal before had deliberately shaped its environment this way. About 1.8 million years ago, another step forward came with Homo erectus. Taller and stronger than Homo habilis, they spread beyond Africa into Asia and Europe, becoming the first humans to leave the continent of our origin. But their greatest achievement was the control of fire. Fire was nothing less than magic. It provided warmth in the freezing Ice Age nights. It kept predators at bay. And most importantly, it allowed food to be cooked, releasing more calories and making it easier to digest. This extra energy fueled the growth of larger brains capable of more complex thought, planning, and cooperation. Fire was the key that unlocked human potential. With fire, tools, and growing intelligence, humans began to climb the food chain. They hunted large animals in coordinated groups, communicating with gestures and sounds. Evidence shows that Homo erectus may have crafted wooden spears, allowing them to strike from a distance rather than risk direct combat. Still, life was precarious. Predators like saber-toothed cats and cave lions were formidable rivals. But slowly, humans learned that working together gave them an advantage. Where one human alone was weak, 10 humans acting in unison could bring down even the mightiest prey. Cooperation became the secret weapon of our lineage. Over hundreds of thousands of years, humans continued to evolve. Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis, emerged in Europe and Asia, adapting brilliantly to the cold climates with stocky builds and powerful bodies. They were skilled hunters, capable toolmakers, and even buried their dead, signs of a complex mind. But in Africa, around 300,000 years ago, another species appeared, Homo sapiens, our own kind. What set us apart was not just anatomy, but language. The ability to speak and share ideas changed everything. With language, knowledge could be passed from one generation to the next. Plans could be made. Strategies could be improved. Culture could develop. In this way, Homo sapiens became not just individuals, but a collective intelligence. Armed with tools, fire, and language, Homo sapiens began their great migration. Leaving Africa, they spread into the Middle East, Europe, Asia, Australia, and eventually the Americas. Everywhere they went, they adapted. In snowy regions, they made clothing from animal hides. In deserts, they learned to find water. On coastlines, they fished. Humans had something no other creature possessed, the ability to invent solutions to survive in any environment. But this adaptability came at a cost. As humans spread, many of the great Ice Age animals disappeared. Mammoths, giant ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, all vanished within tens of thousands of years of human arrival. Whether through overhunting, climate change, or a combination of both, the age of giants gave way to the age of humans. By around 12,000 years ago, the last ice age ended. Glaciers retreated, climates warmed, and humans began to make yet another leap, from hunters and gatherers to farmers. The Neolithic Revolution transformed the world. People domesticated plants and animals, settled in villages, and eventually built the first cities. Civilizations rose in Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China. Writing systems appeared, laws were created, and organized religions emerged. The Quaternary had begun with glaciers, mammoths, and saber-toothed cats. Now it was filled with pyramids, temples, and human societies reshaping the earth itself. The Quaternary teaches us that survival is not just about strength or size. It is about adaptability and intelligence. The mighty mammoths and saber-toothed cats are gone, but humans remain. We rose not because we were the strongest, but because we were the most resourceful, the most cooperative, and the most inventive. Yet history reminds us of a sobering truth. No species rules forever. Dinosaurs once reigned supreme for 150 million years, yet they fell. Mammoths roamed the Ice Age steppes in vast numbers, yet they vanished. We have been here for only a fraction of that time. How long will our reign last? As we look back on the Quaternary, the time that gave us fire, tools, language, and civilization, we must also look forward. If humanity disappeared tomorrow, what creature would rise to take our place? Would it be the descendants of birds, carrying the legacy of the dinosaurs? Or some entirely new species that has not yet appeared? The story of life is one of constant change. Each ending is also a beginning. The Quaternary was the age that gave us our chance, but the next chapter is still unwritten. The Quaternary had carried humankind from the shadows of prehistory to the threshold of light. From the hesitant steps of Australopithecus, through the clever hands of Homo habilis, to the crackling flames of Homo erectus, humans had endured millions of years of trial. Yet all of that was only the prelude. Around 12,000 years ago, as the last ice age drew to a close, humanity stood at the dawn of an entirely new chapter, the chapter of agriculture, civilization, and complex society. For millions of years, humans lived as hunter-gatherers, wandering ceaselessly in pursuit of herds and harvests. Their lives depended on nature, on fortune, on the whim of the seasons. But then came a discovery that would change everything: agriculture. In Mesopotamia, along the fertile banks of the Tigris and Euphrates, people began planting seeds and cultivating crops. Wheat and barley were domesticated here. In China, rice was tamed. In the Americas, maize and potatoes. Alongside crops, humans domesticated animals: dogs, sheep, goats, cattle, horses. Agriculture provided something no human had known before: a stable food supply. With food abundance, people could settle down, build villages, and eventually cities. Agriculture gave birth to civilization. The first civilizations blossomed along great rivers, where fertile soil and abundant water sustained populations. Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, home to cuneiform writing, the Code of Hammurabi, and the first cities like Uruk and Babylon. Egypt, nurtured by the Nile, where the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx stood as eternal monuments to human ambition. The Indus Valley, where cities like Mohenjo-daro were built with advanced urban planning and drainage systems. Ancient China, along the Yellow River, where dynasties rose and philosophies flourished. These civilizations marked a turning point. Humans were no longer mere survivors. They had become builders, lawmakers, artists, and seekers of meaning. If fire was the great tool of Homo erectus, then writing was the great tool of Homo sapiens. With writing, knowledge no longer vanished with each generation. History, law, and faith could be recorded and passed down. Clay tablets and papyrus scrolls preserved the memory of kings, wars, and dreams. Writing gave humans the unique ability to build collective memory across time. It laid the foundation for science, philosophy, and culture. But with civilization came conflict. Humans began building empires, and with empires came wars. Ancient Egypt, Rome, Persia, China, all left behind great monuments and legacies, but also rivers of blood. War was the darker side of civilization, yet it spurred innovation. Swords and spears, bows and chariots, roads and fortifications, and later, gunpowder. Civilization was built not only by reason, but by relentless struggle. Yet humanity was not defined by war alone. Alongside conflict arose beauty, art, and belief. From the cave paintings of Lascaux to the marble statues of Greece, from the first hymns to ancient mythologies, humans sought to express not just survival, but purpose. Belief systems arose as a way to explain existence. From Greek myths to world religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam, all reflect humanity's search for answers. Where did we come from? Why are we here? While faith explained the universe through belief, science sought to explain it through reason. From ancient Greek thinkers like Aristotle and Archimedes to Renaissance visionaries like Galileo and Copernicus, humanity began to uncover the hidden laws of nature. Newton revealed gravity, Darwin explained evolution, Einstein unraveled relativity. Science transformed humans from observers of nature into its masters. It allowed us to fly into the skies, dive into oceans, and even set foot on the moon. Roughly 300 years ago, humanity entered yet another epoch, the Industrial Revolution. Steam engines, railroads, electricity, automobiles, airplanes, technology accelerated life in unimaginable ways. Cities exploded in size. Trade flourished. Populations soared. Industry made humans the absolute rulers of Earth, not through strength, but through invention. Today, we live in the information age. Computers, the internet, artificial intelligence, all weave humanity into a single, connected network. Geography matters less. Knowledge is instant. A thought shared in one corner of the world can be heard globally in seconds. From caves to cities, from stone tools to smartphones, humans have built a civilization unlike anything the Earth has ever seen. Yet history whispers a warning: no reign lasts forever. Dinosaurs ruled for 150 million years, then vanished in a moment. Mammoths once roamed the icy steppes, then disappeared. Humanity has existed for but a fleeting instant in Earth's 4.5 billion year story. And we, too, face threats: climate change, nuclear war, pandemics, and perhaps even artificial intelligence. The chapter of humanity could stretch for millions of years, or close tomorrow. If humans vanish one day, who will inherit the planet? Perhaps birds, descendants of dinosaurs, will continue the story their ancestors began. Perhaps rodents, with their incredible adaptability. Or perhaps a completely new species, yet to emerge. The story of Earth is one of constant renewal. Every ending is a beginning. Since the asteroid struck 66 million years ago, Earth has journeyed far, from devastation and silence, through the grasslands of the Neogene, the icy extremes of the Quaternary, to the radiant glow of human civilization. And if you are listening today, remember this. You are the product of billions of years of evolution, of countless species that lived and died to pave the way for you. The question that remains is, what chapter will humanity write next? Backhand index pointing right. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video so more people can discover the incredible journey of life on Earth. Because this isn't just Earth's history, it's our history.